When Harry Met Sally follows the story of Harry, who meets Sally.
Harry, this is Sally Albright.
It had to be you.
The film follows Harry and Sally, played by Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan respectively, who meet after graduating from university in Chicago. They then share a drive to New York City, and we follow their relationship over the course of 12 years, as they just so happen to keep bumping into each other because apparently New York is just that small. And then, when a blindfolded comatose Stevie Wonder on the moon in a dark room with sunglasses on and the lights turned off with a cushion on his face during an eclipse could see that they belong together, they still do everything but get together.
And that is the end of the story.
The movie first began life in 1984 when director Rob Reiner, producer Andrew Scheinman, and writer Nora Ephron met for lunch in New York to talk about a project. However, the conversation quickly devolved into a discussion about Reiner and Scheinman's lives as single men, which gave them the idea to do a film about two friends who try not to have sex out of fear of ruining their relationship, but then end up doing it anyway. Or as 23-year-old me would call it, Tuesday.
That's too bad.
Ephron then began work on a screenplay by interviewing Reiner and Scheinman about their romantic lives, which forms the whole basis for the character of Harry, as well as inspiring some of the dialogue, whilst the character of Sally was inspired by Ephron's friends. She then came up with several drafts over the years, whilst Reiner made Stand By Me and The Princess Bride, and Scheinman worked on casting the two leads. Reiner wanted Billy Crystal for Harry right from the very beginning, but he was convinced to instead go for a more typical leading man. He approached the likes of Albert Brooks, Tom Hanks, Bill Murray, Jeff Bridges, Richard Dreyfuss, Harrison Ford, and Michael Keaton, but they all turned him down. Eventually, Reiner finally chose Crystal to play Harry and Meg Ryan to play Sally, though Elizabeth McGovern, Molly Ringwald, Susan Day, and Elizabeth Perkins were also considered. Additionally, the choice to include interludes within the film of real couples talking about their relationships was made during production. Whenever she wasn't writing, Nora Ephron would interview members of the crew throughout the shooting process, and some of these interviews would be written up and spliced throughout the runtime, though the couples themselves were played by actors. On top of that, much of the dialogue was inspired by Reiner and Crystal's real-life friendship, particularly from Harry. For example, there's a scene where Harry and Sally talk to each other on the phone whilst watching TV, which is something that Crystal and Reiner would do every single night. Yeah, this is pretty much how they did Skype watch parties in the 80s, kids.
Really?
However, one major source of contention was the title. Ephron originally wanted to call the movie How They Met, and went through several other alternative ideas, including Just Friends, Blue Moon, Boy Meets Girl, Words of Love, It Had to Be You, and Harry, This Is Sally. Eventually, Reiner held a competition amongst the crew to come up with a better title, offering the winner a bottle of champagne, which finally resulted in the title we all know and love. Ephron didn't like the new one, however, but agreed to go along with it as she couldn't think of a better one herself, though it remains the one thing about the movie that she wishes she could change, but what the hell does she know?
You know, I hate that kind of remark.
Additionally, the original draft of the script ended with Harry and Sally not getting together, as Ephron felt it was a more fitting ending to their story. It wasn't until later in the production that it was decided they would end up a couple, though she agreed that it was probably an unrealistic outcome. Yeah, how dare they end up happy, pricks.
Boy, you sound really healthy.
When Harry Met Sally was released on July the 21st, 1989, and despite fears that the movie would flop due to competition from Batman and Indiana Jones 3, it was a huge hit, grossing $92 million against its $16 million budget. Reviews from both critics and audiences were also universally positive, praising the script and Crystal and Ryan's chemistry. Nora Ephron's screenplay earned her an Oscar nomination. The American Film Institute picked it as the 6th greatest romantic comedy, the 23rd funniest movie ever made, the 25th best romance, and the famous line,
"I'll have what she's having,"
as the 33rd best quote, and the movie is now universally regarded as one of the greatest rom-coms of all time and one of the most iconic movies to come out of the 1980s. And I just want to know, when the hell did we stop wearing seatbelts? Billy Crystal's Harry is a complete arse for a good chunk of the movie.
I don't have the problem.
Yeah, you do.
But I strangely find myself relating to him quite a bit.
Suppose you live there your whole life and nothing happens, you never meet anybody, you never become anything, and finally you die, one of those New York deaths that nobody notices for 2 weeks until the smell drifts into the hallway.
You don't have a tumor.
How do you know?
If you're so worried, go see a doctor.
No, he'll just tell me it's nothing. All of a sudden, I'm in the middle of this massive anxiety attack. My heart's beating like a wild man, and I start sweating like a pig.
But I'm sorry, Monsters Inc. ruined everything for me. A lot of the time now, all I'm hearing is just Mike Wazowski.
Joe, I thought it was you. I thought it was you.
The movie is pretty funny and has some great gags.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't.
It just so happens that I have had plenty of good sex.
But the funniest joke is probably them trying to make out like Meg Ryan is this wholesome, innocent virgin. Look at her! There's even a moment where she seems genuinely surprised to find out that men want a boner. Yeah, this is another thing. The movie is a damn social commentary on men, women, and relationships in general.
That's not true. I have a number of men friends and there is no sex involved.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You only think you do.
You're saying I'm having sex with these men without my knowledge?
No, what I'm saying is they all want to have sex with you.
Wait, what's with this guy reading the paper? Who sits like this? What's he doing? What is this? The aforementioned interludes of couples telling their love stories is really sweet, but then randomly we get this one.
We're married 3 years, we got a divorce. Then I married Marjorie.
But first you lived with Barbara.
Right, Barbara. But I didn't marry Barbara, I married Marjorie.
Then you got a divorce.
Right, then I married Katie.
Another divorce.
There's a hilarious scene where he's talking to his best friend in a stadium about his failed marriage and his cheating wife, but they keep being interrupted to do a happy Mexican wave, which is pretty great. The thing is, it truly is a really heartwarming story as the duo rely on one another to get through their respective breakups. None of it feels like a rushed rebound like in so many other romantic comedies. It's all done really naturally and smoothly. They have tremendous chemistry and the two actors are just a blast to watch. However, it's almost infuriating how long they take to realize that they should just get together.
You enjoy being with her?
Yeah.
You find her attractive?
Yeah.
And you're not sleeping with her?
No.
They even date each other's friends for crying out loud. And they all bond with the wrong person. What more do you need? The performances are great as they are both clearly affected when the other dates someone else. Just shag already! The most famous scene in the diner is so damn cringy, but it is still hilarious. And the woman with the famous line is actually Rob Reiner's real-life mother. It's perfect. And poor Meg Ryan had to keep doing this act for about 2 hours. My only gripe is that she doesn't really have much of a point. I mean, I get it. The scene was women empowerment by proving that women lie to their partner in bed. You go, girls? But anyway, Harry is such an egomaniac, he refuses to believe that a woman could have ever faked an orgasm with him in bed, so she proves that it is possible by making sexual and orgasmic noises out of nowhere. Now, while I do agree that women can obviously act and fake sexual noises, the point doesn't really land, because when a woman orgasms and you're, you know, in the middle of coitus, you can feel it. So surely just making the noises won't trick anyone. Or is that the joke? Is Billy Crystal just a complete dumbass, or was this written by a virgin? I mean, you can't fake your body pulsating and your vagina tightening, and I'm spending way too much time analysing a social commentary scene on the female orgasm, aren't I? But then what I don't understand...
He's getting married.
Who?
Joe!
Don't you have a boyfriend? What the hell are you upset? You had a damn boyfriend in the last scene, and then they both cheat with each other. Alright, I guess we're supposed to forget that they're both romantically involved with someone else. I'll allow it considering the amount of damn time it took for them to pork. But he feels weird because he actually has the feels and leaves, and you can tell just from her face alone that she's expecting him to ditch and not come back, treating her like every other girl he's done this to. The performances are wonderful. We get a really cool shot as they both call their best friends who are in the same room together, and this took 60 takes just to get the timing right. My question is, why the hell do they have two landline phones in the same room? In fact, how can they both be on the same phone line but calling a different number at the same time? That's not how landlines worked, especially in the 1980s. And just when they're together, they decide not to be together. God damn it, this is like Ross and Rachel times 1,000. He does pester her with voicemails, which borders on stalking, but somehow Billy Crystal is so charming and funny, it doesn't really matter. But we only have 10 minutes of runtime left, so he has a quick flashback to what he said about being friends with a woman he wants to pork and rushes over, and she is the only person in the entire studio surprised that he loves her. But to be fair, the dialogue is really well written as he pours his heart out. The movie has a lot of heart and does have some great comedy, but they don't overdo it. The performances are all brilliant and the love story is gradual but natural. Even after all of these years, I'd say that When Harry Met Sally still holds up as a classic film from the 1980s.